I'm standing at the gate of a cabin I bought for 12 cents, and I can smell blood. The iron key sits heavy in my palm, rust flaking off like dried skin. The gate swings open with a scream of metal that echoes across the empty prairie. Behind me, my horse Deacon snorts, nervous, his ears flat against his skull. Animals know things. They smell death before it happens. Before I tell you why nobody else bid on this place, let me tell you what 12 cents means to a man like me. It means I got nothing left. Not pride, not hope, just these coins and a stubborn refusal to die quiet. 6 months ago, I had a different name, not the one I use now. 6 months ago, I stood in front of a ranch house in New Mexico with 200 head of cattle, a wife who made the best cornbread west of the Mississippi, and a boy with red hair just like his mama. Little Sam, 8 years old and smart as a whip. Then Silas Webb came, not with guns, not with threats, with papers. Legal documents stamped and sealed, land deeds that said my ranch, the one my father built with his own hands, the one I bled into for 15 years, belonged to the Webb Land Company. Had always belonged to them. My deed was a forgery, they said. A fake. I fought it. Hired a lawyer with money I didn't have. The lawyer drank whiskey in the courthouse, while Webb's men smiled from the gallery. The judge, a thin man with spectacles and a conscience he'd sold years before, ruled against me in under 10 minutes. 30 days to vacate. Sarah, my wife, she tried to hold it together, tried to smile for Sam, but the stress, it got into her bones like winter cold. She took sick that first week, coughing that wouldn't stop, fever that burned her up from the inside. I sold everything to pay for the doctor, the cattle, the furniture, my father's watch. The doctor came, looked at her with eyes that had seen too much death, and told me what I already knew. Consumption, advanced. She needed medicine, rest, a sanatorium back east. I had $17, she died on a Tuesday. Rain hammering the roof of the boarding house where we'd taken a room. Sam holding one hand, me holding the other. Her last words were not about heaven or peace or any of that. She looked at me with those green eyes going dim and whispered, "Take care of little Sam." I buried her in a pauper's grave. Couldn't even afford a stone marker. Sam's grandparents, Sarah's folks, they lived in Philadelphia. Good people. Stable. I sent him east on the stagecoach with the last of the money. Told him I'd come get him when I got settled. Told him I loved him. Watched that coach disappear into the dust and knew I'd failed at the one thing that mattered, being a man who protects his family. So I drifted, took odd jobs, slept in barns, let my beard grow and my name fade. Made my way to Arizona Territory because it was far from everything I'd lost. Redemption, they called this town. The irony wasn't lost on me. And this morning, with 12 cents in my pocket and a newspaper advertisement about a land auction, I walked into that courthouse one more time. The room was packed, wealthy ranchers in pressed suits, merchants with gold watch chains, land speculators with hungry eyes. They'd come for the parcels of good grazing land, the water rights, the profitable plots. Then the auctioneer, a nervous man named Horace Finch, cleared his throat and announced the final item. 1 cabin and approximately 12 acres at Crow's Gate. Starting bid, 12 cents. The room went silent. Not the normal auction silence where men calculate profit margins. This was different. This was the silence of a mass grave. Every head turned toward that announcement like they'd heard a gunshot. The wealthy ranchers, men who'd been bidding thousands on other parcels, they stood frozen, absolutely still. I looked around, confused. 12 cents for a cabin and land? Even if the cabin was falling apart, the land alone had to be worth something. An old woman sitting near the back, a Mexican lady with silver hair and a rosary in her weathered hands, she caught my eye, leaned forward and whispered in accented English, "That cabin eats souls, mijo. Stay away." I should have listened, but 12 cents was exactly what I had, and a man with nothing has nothing to lose. I raised my hand. Every eye in that courthouse swung to me, and what I saw in those faces wasn't envy or anger, it was pity. Deep, sorrowful pity, like they were watching a man walk willingly into his own hanging. "We have 12 cents, Horace Finch called out, his voice shaking. "Do I hear anything higher?" Silence. 30 seconds passed. A full minute. I kept my hand up, feeling the weight of all those stairs. Going once, going twice. The gavel came down with a thud that sounded like a coffin lid closing. "Sold to the gentleman in the back." As the crowd filed out, I noticed a man standing in the corner of the room. Tall, maybe 40 years old. He wasn't dressed like the other ranchers, clean-shaven, expensive suit, a gold watch chain catching the light. He was staring at me with eyes the color of creek ice. When our gazes met, his lips curled into something that might have been a smile or a threat. Then he turned and walked out. I approached Horace Finch at his desk. Up close, I could see sweat on his forehead despite the cool morning air. His hands trembled as he filled out the deed. "Name?" he asked without looking up. "Caleb Stone." He wrote it down, slid the paper across. "Sign here," I signed. Placed my 12 cents on the desk. 3 pennies and a dime that I'd been carrying so long they'd worn smooth. Horace pushed them back toward me. "Keep your money, Mr. Stone," I frowned. The bid was 12 cents. "Consider it a courtesy." He still wouldn't meet my eyes. "Mr. Stone, that cabin, it belonged to a man named Ezra Hartwell. He was found dead there 15 years ago. Natural causes?" Horace finally looked up. His eyes were the eyes of a man who'd seen things he wished he could forget. "Nobody goes near that place no more. Nobody." "Why'd it go to auction then?" "Because the county needed to clear the deed, and because someone wanted it auctioned." He slid an old iron key across the desk. It was heavy, rust-covered. "This is yours now. God help you." I took the key and the deed, walked out into the bright Arizona morning. My horse Deacon was tied at the rail, old and sway-backed, but loyal. I climbed into the saddle, feeling the paper crinkle in my shirt pocket. The Mexican woman, the one who'd warned me, she was standing by the courthouse steps. As I rode past, she crossed herself and whispered something in Spanish. I didn't speak the language, but I knew a prayer when I heard one. The ride out to Crow's Gate took an hour. The land was typical Arizona territory. Red dirt, scrub brush, mountains purple in the distance. It was late summer, the kind of heat that makes the air shimmer like water. Deacon plodded along, his hooves kicking up small clouds of dust. I kept thinking about Sarah, about how she used to say I had a talent for bad decisions. Marrying her, that was a good decision, the best one I ever made. But everything after, she'd have been right about all of it. 12 cents on a dead man's cabin? She'd have laughed. Then she'd have helped me fix it up. The land started to change about 3 miles out of town. The brush got thicker, the dirt darker. There were birds, but they didn't sing, just watched from the branches with black eyes. Then I saw it. The cabin sat in a small clearing, backed by a line of cottonwood trees. It was bigger than I'd expected, solid construction. Log walls that looked like they'd been built by someone who knew what they were doing. A porch with a roof. Windows, though most were boarded up. A barn off to one side half collapsed, but it was the gate that stopped me. Wooden, maybe 10 feet wide. 2 posts with a crossbeam, the kind you'd see at the entrance to any ranch. Except this one had something hanging from that crossbeam. A rope. I pulled Deacon to a stop about 50 yards out. The wind shifted. That's when the smell hit me. Copper. Rust. And underneath it all, something else. Something fresh. Blood. My hand went to the rifle in my saddle scabbard. Old habit. I'd never been a violent man, but you don't survive the frontier without knowing which end of a gun does the work. I dismounted slow, tied Deacon to a scrub oak. He pulled at the reins, not wanting to be left. "Easy, boy," I whispered. "Just gonna take a look." I approached the gate on foot. Every step felt wrong. The air was too still, too quiet. Like the whole world was holding its breath. The rope hung from the crossbeam, about 8 feet off the ground. It was new rope, manila hemp, the kind that costs money, and at the end of that rope, tied in a noose, was a body, a woman. She hung there, head tilted to one side, long black hair covering her face. Her feet, bare and dusty, dangled about a foot off the ground. She wore a simple dress, torn and stained. But what struck me, what made me stop dead, was her size. She was massive. Not fat, muscular. Her shoulders were broader than mine. Her arms, visible where the sleeves had torn, were corded with the kind of muscle you only get from years of hard labor. She had to be over 6 feet tall, maybe more. I'd never seen a woman that size in my life. I stood there, frozen, my mind trying to process what I was seeing. This was my property now, my cabin, and someone had used it to hang a woman. Then I saw her chest move, just a flutter, so slight I almost missed it, but it was there, a shallow, desperate breath. She was alive. My body moved before my brain caught up. I ran to the gate, pulled my knife from my belt. The rope was thick, but the blade was sharp. I sawed through it in 3 hard cuts. The rope snapped. She fell. I tried to catch her, got my arms under her shoulders, but the weight of her drove me backward. We both went down hard, me on my back in the dirt, her on top of me. The air slammed out of my lungs. For a second I just lay there, gasping, crushed under this woman who was built like a bull. Then I managed to roll her off, get to my knees. The noose was still around her neck, rope burn raw and bleeding. Her face was caked with dust and dried blood, but her chest rose and fell, shallow breaths rattling. I worked the noose off, careful. Her skin burned with fever. I tore a strip from my shirt, soaked it with water, pressed it against the wound. "Hang on," I said, not sure if she could hear. "Just hang on." Her eyes opened, black, deep as wells, staring right through me. They stared at me with an intensity that made me lean back. Then her lips moved. A whisper so quiet I had to put my ear right next to her mouth to hear. One word, in a language I didn't understand. Apache, maybe. Then her eyes closed again. I looked up at the cross beam where the rope had been tied. The wood was stained dark, old blood. This wasn't the first time someone had been hanged here. My 12-cent cabin, my fresh start, my chance to build something for Sam. It was a killing ground. I heard them before I saw them. The sound of horses, multiple horses, coming fast. I looked toward the road. 3 riders appeared on the ridge, silhouetted against the afternoon sun. They sat there for a long moment, just watching. Then, as one, they turned and rode back the way they'd come. But I'd seen enough. One of them wore a black hat. The others had rifles across their saddles. And they weren't surprised to see me here. They'd been waiting. The woman in my arms stirred. Her hand, huge and calloused, gripped my wrist with surprising strength. Her eyes opened again, locked on mine. She spoke in broken English this time, voice like gravel. "They come back. Kill you too." I looked down at her, at this giant of a woman who someone had tried to murder on my property. Then I looked at the cabin, at the gate, at the 12 acres of land that I'd bought with my last coins. Sarah's voice echoed in my memory. "Take care of little Sam." To do that, I needed this place, needed to make it work, needed to build something. But first, I had to understand what I'd bought, and why someone wanted both of us dead for it. I got her inside before they came back. The woman was heavy, dead weight. I had to half drag, half carry her across the clearing to the cabin door. Every few feet I'd stop, gasping, my back screaming. She'd drifted in and out of consciousness, sometimes mumbling in that Apache tongue, sometimes just staring at me with those black eyes. The cabin door was locked. I fumbled with the rusty key Horace Finch had given me, my hands shaking. It took 3 tries before the lock clicked. The door swung open with a groan. Inside was darkness and dust, thick dust, the kind that accumulates over years of abandonment. But as my eyes adjusted, I realized something. This place wasn't destroyed. No broken furniture, no holes in the walls. It was like someone had just walked out one day and never came back. There was a bed against the far wall, old rope frame, straw mattress. I dragged the woman to it, laid her down as gently as I could. Her breathing was shallow but steady. The rope burn on her neck had stopped bleeding, but the skin was angry red, already starting to swell. I found a pump by the sink. Miracle of miracles, it still worked. The water came out brown at first, then clear. I filled a tin cup, brought it to her lips. She drank like someone dying of thirst. Half of it spilled down her chin, but she got enough. While she rested, I took stock of the cabin, one main room, the bed, a table with 2 chairs, a cast-iron stove in the corner, shelves on the walls, empty except for a few dusty jars. A door leading to what looked like a small back room, maybe for storage. Windows boarded up from the outside, letting in only thin lines of light. But here's what struck me. Everything was quality. The table was solid oak. The stove was a good brand. The floor was level. The logs chinked tight. Whoever built this place, they'd built it to last. Ezra Hartwell, the surveyor who died here 15 years ago. I walked to the back room, pushed the door open. It was small, maybe 6 by 8 feet, empty except for dust and a few old crates. But there in the corner I saw something, a dark stain on the floorboards. About 3 feet wide, the kind of stain that comes from a body lying in one place for a long time. This is where Hartwell died. I backed out, shut the door. Behind me the woman spoke. "You stupid man." I turned. She was sitting up, one hand pressed against her throat. Even sitting down, even weak and injured, she was imposing. Her shoulders filled half the bed. Her hands were the size of dinner plates. "I've been called worse," I said. "You speak English?" "Some." Her voice was rough, damaged by the rope. "You cut rope. Why?" "Because letting you die wasn't how I was raised." She studied me for a long moment. Then, to my surprise, she laughed. It was a painful sound, more cough than humor. "You cut rope, now you die too, stupid." "Who strung you up?" "White men. 6 of them. Leader, he wore expensive suit, gold watch. The man from the courthouse, the one who'd smiled at me like a shark." "Why'd they hang you?" She was quiet for a moment, then she said, "I see something they not want anyone see." "What did you see?" "Murder." The word hung in the air between us. Outside, the wind picked up. The cabin creaked. I pulled one of the chairs over, sat down facing her. "I'm Caleb Stone. I bought this cabin this morning. 12 cents at auction." "12 cents?" She shook her head. "They sell you trap." "Who's they?" "Men who hang me. Men who kill surveyor." She touched the floorboards. "Ezra Hartwell. He find truth. They kill him. Hide truth here." "What truth?" "Land. Deeds. All stolen." She coughed, winced. "I am Kaya, daughter of White Cloud." White Cloud. I'd heard that name. Apache chief. His reservation was about 20 miles north of here. "How'd you end up here, Kaya?" She took another sip of water. Then slowly, she told me her story. Kaya was a horsebreaker, not a warrior, not a scout. She worked with the wild mustangs that roamed the territory, breaking them for the tribe. She was 28 years old, unmarried, though she'd been promised to a warrior named Running Wolf. He'd died 2 years ago in a raid against Mexican rustlers. "I am big," she said matter-of-factly, "since child. Father call me mountain daughter. Men, they fear me, or they want break me, like horse." She looked at her hands. "Running Wolf, he not fear. He see me, real me. When he die, I think good. No more man try own me." But her father, Chief White Cloud, he'd made a deal. A treaty with the white authorities. Peace in exchange for staying on the reservation. The man who'd brokered that treaty was Silas Webb, Webb Land Company. The same company that took my ranch. 1 week ago, Kaya had been breaking horses near the southern edge of the reservation. She'd wandered off the boundary, chasing a particularly stubborn mare. That's when she saw them. 6 men, one in a suit. The others rough-looking. They were standing over a body, a white man in surveyor's clothes. The man in the suit was holding papers, a map. "I hide in rocks," Kaya said. "They not see me, but I hear. Surveyor, his name Marcus Yates. He find silver, vein running through reservation land. Webb, he want it. Surveyor say no, cannot mine reservation. Webb shoot him. Here, she pointed to her chest. Then they see my horse. I run. They chase. Catch me 2 miles from cabin. Why bring you here? This cabin it is message. Long time ago, Ezra Hartwell, he was surveyor too. He find Webb stealing land, making false deeds. Hartwell try tell authorities. Webb kill him. Leave him here. Everyone know, but no one speak. Fear. So they hang you here to send the same message. Kaya nodded. To my father, to tribe. Stay quiet or this happen to daughter of chief. Your father, he know you're here? Her face darkened. No, I leave reservation without permission. I not want him choose between me and tribe. Her voice cracked. If he save me, break treaty. If he not save me, I die. I run away so he not have to choose. Bad daughter. I saw it then. The guilt in her eyes, the same guilt I carried. She'd left to protect her father from an impossible choice. Same way I'd sent Sam east to protect him from my failure. We sat in silence for a minute. Then I said, "You ain't a bad daughter. You gave him a choice he could live with. That takes more courage than staying." She looked at me, surprised. "You understand. I got a son, 8 years old. Sent him back east to live with his grandparents after his mama died." I stared at the floorboards. Tell myself it's to keep him safe, but truth is, I couldn't bear him seeing me like this, broken. You not broken. Kaya's voice was firm. You cut rope. You choose help, not walk away. That not broken man. Before I could respond, we heard it. Hoofbeats, multiple horses, coming fast. I grabbed my rifle, moved to the window. Through a crack in the boards, I could see them. 6 riders, led by a man on a black horse. Even from this distance, I could see the glint of his gold watch chain. They stopped at the gate. The man in the suit dismounted, then smooth and unhurried. He adjusted his jacket, then called out in a voice that carried across the clearing like a preacher's, "Mr. Stone, Caleb Stone, I know you're in there. Come out. Let's talk like civilized men." I looked at Kaya. She'd gone pale. "Webb," she whispered. Silas Webb, the man who'd taken my ranch, the man who'd murdered Marcus Yates, the man who'd ordered Kaya hanged. My hands tightened on the rifle. Webb called again. "I'm not here to cause trouble, Mr. Stone. I'm here to make you an offer, a generous offer." I opened the door, stepped out onto the porch, kept the rifle low but ready. Generous offer from the man who took my ranch in New Mexico? That's rich. Webb's eyebrows rose. Then he smiled, wide, genuinely pleased. "Ah, so you know who I am. That saves time." He took a step closer. "Caleb Stone. Or should I say Caleb Hartman. Yes, I know your real name. I make it my business to know who buys property in my territory, especially former property owners." My real name. I hadn't used it in 6 months. Hearing it spoken aloud made my chest tight. Webb continued, "That cabin you bought, it's special. And the woman you found inside? She's wanted for trespassing on reservation land. I'm here to collect her, peacefully. She witnessed you murder Marcus Yates." Webb didn't flinch. Strong accusation. "Do you have proof?" Her word. The word of a reservation Indian against a respected businessman? Webb shook his head sadly. "Mr. Stone, you're an intelligent man. You know how these things work. Now I'm prepared to offer you $1,000, cash, for this cabin and whatever trouble you found inside. You take that money right out, start fresh somewhere else. No one needs to get hurt." From inside the cabin, Kaya's voice rang out, louder than I expected given her injuries. "He lie. He kill you anyway." Webb sighed. "The squaw is making this difficult." "Don't call her that." Webb's smile faded. "Mr. Stone, I'm a patient man, but my associates." He gestured to the 5 men behind him, all holding rifles. "They're not. Take the money. This is your last chance to walk away breathing." I looked at him, really looked at him. This was the man who'd destroyed my life, who'd killed my wife as surely as if he'd shot her himself, who'd made me send my son away, who'd reduced me to 12 cents and a dying horse. I could take the money right out, find another place, stay invisible. But then I thought about Sam, about the letter I'd write him someday, about looking him in the eye and telling him about his pa. Did I want to tell him I ran again? I paid 12 cents for this place, I heard myself say. That's all I got left in the world. So no, Mr. Webb, this cabin's mine, and so is whatever's inside it. Webb's face went cold. All pretense of civility vanished. You just signed your death warrant, Stone, and the squaws. I raised the rifle, not pointing it at him, but making it clear. Get off my property. For a long moment we stared at each other. Then Webb smiled again, but this smile was different, reptilian. Very well. You have until sunrise, Mr. Stone. After that, accidents happen, especially with old cabins. They burn so easily. And it's such a shame when people are trapped inside. He mounted his horse. Good evening, Mr. Stone. Enjoy your last night on Earth. They rode off, but I noticed one of the men, younger than the others, lingered behind. He glanced back at the cabin, then at Webb's retreating form. Then he kicked his horse and followed. I went back inside. Kaya was standing now, leaning against the wall for support. Why? She asked. Why you not take money? I set the rifle down. Because I'm tired of running, tired of letting men like him win. He kill you. Maybe, but at least I'll die standing up. She studied me for a long moment. Then she said, You like Running Wolf. He dies standing too, fighting. Her voice softened. I not love him. Father choose him for me, but I respect him. And I grieve, not for husband I lose, for choice I never have. I understood. An arranged marriage she didn't want. A man she respected but didn't love. A life decided for her. We got until sunrise, I said. That gives us maybe 12 hours. If there's anything hidden in this cabin, anything Hartwell left behind, we need to find it. Kaya nodded. Webb think paper's still here. That why he wait 15 years. Wait for someone buy cabin, then kill them and burn it. No evidence, no witnesses. Where would a surveyor hide papers? She looked around the cabin. Her eyes, sharp despite her injuries, swept the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Then she pointed. There, southwest corner. Floor looked different. I knelt where she indicated. She was right. 3 floorboards in the corner were slightly darker than the others, newer. I took my knife, wedged it between the boards, and pried. The boards came up easily, too easily. Underneath was a shallow space, maybe 6 inches deep, and inside that space was a metal box. It was about the size of a saddlebag. Iron, with a heavy lock. I lifted it out, set it on the table. The lock was old but solid. I looked at Kaya. She looked at me. We break it? She asked. We break it. I used the rifle butt. 3 hard strikes and the lock shattered. I lifted the lid. Inside were papers, dozens of them, land deeds, survey maps, legal documents, all bearing the stamp of the Webb Land Company. And underneath those, a leather-bound journal. I opened the journal. The first page read, Property of Ezra Hartwell, Licensed Surveyor, Arizona Territory. I flipped through the pages. Dates, names, locations, and descriptions. Detailed descriptions of fraud, forged deeds, bribed officials, murdered witnesses. 12 names, 12 people Webb had killed over 5 years to cover his land theft. Marcus Yates was number 13. This is it, I whispered. This is what Hartwell died for. Kaya leaned over my shoulder, squinting at the English words she could barely read. This prove Webb guilty? This proves everything. Outside the sun was setting. The cabin filled with orange light that made the dust motes dance like sparks. We had evidence. We had the truth. But we were surrounded by Webb's men, outnumbered, and I had exactly 8 bullets for my rifle. Kaya must have been thinking the same thing. We trapped, she said quietly. We've got one thing Webb doesn't expect. What? We're cornered. And cornered animals fight harder than any hunter. She smiled. It was the first time I'd seen her smile. It transformed her face, made her look younger. Running wolf say same thing before he die. Men with nothing left, they fight like wolves. Your father, Chief White Cloud, how far is the reservation? 20 miles north. But father cannot help. Treaty say he stay out of white man's business. What if we brought the evidence to him? Would he break treaty to stop a murderer? Kaya was quiet for a long time. Then she said, maybe. But Webb's men, they watch roads. We not make it. I looked at the journal, at Ezra Hartwell's careful handwriting, at the names of the dead, at the proof of 15 years of murder and theft. Then I looked at Kaya, this woman who'd been hanged for witnessing the truth, who'd left her father to spare him pain, who stood 6'2" and had muscles like iron and a heart that had been broken too many times. We don't go north, I said, and we go into town, we find the marshal. We make him listen. Marshal afraid of Webb, then we make him more afraid of the truth. Outside, full darkness fell. Somewhere in that darkness, Webb's men were setting up camp, waiting for dawn, waiting to burn us alive. I lit a candle on the table. In its flickering light, I saw my reflection in the dark window glass. Gaunt face, hollow eyes. A man who'd lost everything. But maybe, just maybe, a man who'd finally found something worth fighting for. Not for myself. I was past saving. But for Sam. For Kaya. For every person Webb had destroyed. For 12 cents and a cabin full of ghosts. Kaya sat down across from me. You different than others. I'm a man who let his wife die, who sent his son away, who ran instead of fought. And now? Now I'm a man with a 12-cent cabin and a witness to murder. Seems like that ought to count for something. She reached across the table. Her hand, massive and scarred, covered mine. When sun come up, we fight. I looked into those black eyes, saw the same desperation I felt, the same last stand courage. When the sun comes up, I said, we ride for town, fast and hard. We get this journal to the marshal, and if Webb's men try to stop us, then yes, we fight. She nodded once, firm, final. We spent the rest of the night preparing. I checked my rifle, counted my bullets again. 8. Kaya found an old revolver in a drawer. It was rusty, but functional. 5 rounds. 13 bullets between us. Just before dawn, I wrote a letter. To Sam, short, in case I didn't make it. Dear Sam, if you're reading this, it means your pa didn't make it back. I'm sorry for that. Sorry for a lot of things. But I want you to know, at the end, I tried to do right. Tried to stand up for something. Your mama would be proud of that, I think. You be good for your grandparents. Study hard. And remember, a man ain't measured by what he loses. He's measured by what he does when there's nothing left to lose. I love you, son. Your pa. I sealed it, wrote Sam's grandparents' address on the outside, put it in my shirt pocket over my heart. Then, as the first light of dawn touched the horizon, Kaya and I walked out of that cabin. The metal box with Hartwell's journal was strapped to Deacon's saddle. Kaya, despite her injuries, moved with surprising steadiness. Her jaw was set, her eyes hard. We stood at the gate where she'd hung, where I'd cut her down. The rope was still there, dangling in the morning breeze. 12 cents, she said softly. You pay 12 cents, buy all this trouble. Best money I ever spent. She looked at me sideways. You crazy man. Probably. In the distance, we could see them. Webb's men, 6 riders spreading out across the prairie between us and town, blocking the road. And at the center, on his black horse, Silas Webb, waiting. We ride through them? Kaya asked. We ride through them. She climbed up behind me on Deacon. The old horse snorted, unhappy with the extra weight, but held steady. I felt Kaya's arms wrap around my waist, strong, solid. When I say run, I whispered to Deacon, you run like you did when you were young. One more time, old friend. For Sarah. For Sam. For all of us. I kicked my heels. Deacon lunged forward, and we rode toward the sunrise, toward Webb's men, toward whatever came next. Behind us, the 12-cent cabin stood silent, full of secrets, full of ghosts, full of truth that men had died to hide. But we were done hiding. We were done running. And if this was where my story ended, At least it would end with me fighting for something real. The wind whipped past. Kaya's breath was hot on my neck. The journal pressed against my back. Ahead, Webb raised his hand. His men raised their rifles. Deacon's hooves pounded. Kaya's breath hot on my neck. The journal pressed against my spine. 50 yards, 40, 30. Webb's hand dropped. Guns fired. The first bullet screamed past my ear before we'd gone 50 yards. Deacon didn't flinch. Good old horse. He just put his head down and ran like he remembered what it was to be young. Kaya's arms tightened around my waist, her weight shifting with every stride, helping balance us. Another shot. This one kicked up dirt to our left. They weren't trying to kill us yet. Webb wanted us alive, wanted the journal, wanted to know what we'd found. That gave us maybe 30 seconds. I angled Deacon hard right toward a dried creek bed. Not the direct route to town, but it offered cover. The ravine was shallow, maybe 4 feet deep, but enough to get us below the line of fire. Deacon's hooves hit the soft sand of the creek bed, and he stumbled. For one heart-stopping moment, I thought we'd go down. But Kaya shifted her weight backward, and I pulled the reins, and somehow we stayed upright. Behind us, the sound of pursuit. Hoofbeats thunder, men shouting. The creek bed curved north. We followed it for maybe a quarter mile. Then I saw what I'd been hoping for, a place where the bank had collapsed, creating a natural ramp back up to the prairie level. "Hold on," I shouted to Kaya. Deacon took the slope at a dead run. We burst out of the creek bed into open ground. And there, not 200 yards ahead, was the town of Redemption. But between us and safety stood one rider. He'd circled around, cut us off. Young man, maybe 25. He sat on a paint horse, rifle across his saddle blocking our path, but his face wasn't hard like the others. It was scared. I pulled Deacon to a sliding stop. Dust billowed. The young man didn't raise his rifle. "Please," he said, voice shaking, "just give Mr. Webb what he wants. He'll let you go." "You believe that?" I asked. The young man's jaw worked. I have to. What's your name?" "Roy. Roy Finch." "Finch. Same last name as the auctioneer." "Horace Finch your father?" Roy nodded. "Webb made him auction that cabin. Made him set up the whole thing. Pa didn't want to. But Webb, he owns the bank. Owns Pa's mortgage." Behind us, the other riders were closing in, maybe 30 seconds before they reached us. "Roy," I said quickly, "your pa, he seemed like a decent man. Scared, but decent. What about you? You decent?" "I try to be." "Then get out of the way." Roy's hands tightened on his rifle. For a moment, I thought he might shoot. Then, with a choked sound that might have been a sob, he yanked his horse's reins and moved aside. We thundered past him. I heard him shout behind us, "They went into the arroyo, lost him in the brush," buying us time, maybe 30 more seconds. The edge of Redemption came up fast. First building was a stable, then a few houses, then the main street. It was early morning, maybe 6 o'clock, but the town was already awake. People on the boardwalks, shops opening, a normal day. Until we came crashing through. Deacon's hooves hammered on the hard-packed street. People scattered. A woman screamed. Someone shouted, "That's the man who bought Crow's Gate." I aimed for the center of town. The marshal's office had to be near the courthouse. Had to be. There. A small building with bars on the windows and a faded sign that read, "Marshal." I pulled Deacon to a stop so hard he nearly sat down. Kaya and I tumbled off. I grabbed the metal box from the saddle, and we ran for the door. It was locked. I pounded with my fist. "Marshal! Marshal Cross! Open up!" Behind us, Webb's men rode into town. 6 of them now. They spread out surrounding the marshal's office, but they didn't shoot. Too many witnesses. Too many townspeople watching. Webb himself rode up slowly, calm, like he had all the time in the world. He dismounted, adjusted his suit jacket, and walked toward us with the easy confidence of a man who owned everything in sight. "Mr. Stone," he called out, voice pleasant, friendly even. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." The door behind me opened. I nearly fell backward. Marshal Ethan Cross stood in the doorway. He was older than I'd expected, maybe 55. Gray beard, Weathered face, eyes that had seen too much. He wore a badge on his vest and a gun on his hip, but his shoulders were slumped. "What's all this commotion?" he asked tiredly. I shoved the metal box at him. "Evidence. Ezra Hartwell's journal. Proof that Silas Webb has murdered 13 people and stolen half the land in this territory." Marshal Cross looked at the box. Didn't take it. "Where'd you get this?" "From the cabin at Crow's Gate. The cabin I bought yesterday. That cabin's been abandoned for 15 years. Because Webb's been waiting for someone to buy it. Then he could kill them and burn it. Destroy the evidence." Webb stepped onto the boardwalk. "Marshal Cross, this man is clearly disturbed. He attacked my men this morning, unprovoked, and he's harboring a fugitive. That Apache woman, she's wanted for trespassing on reservation land." "She witnessed you murder Marcus Yates," I said. "A surveyor. Shot him because he found silver on reservation land and wouldn't let you mine it." A murmur ran through the crowd that had gathered. People pressed closer, listening. Webb's smile didn't waver. "Slander. Pure slander. Marshal, I demand you arrest this man." Marshal Cross looked between us. His hand rested on his gun, but his face was tormented. "Mr. Webb, if there's evidence of wrongdoing, I need to investigate." "There is no evidence, just the ravings of a man who lost his property in a legal transaction and wants revenge." "Legal?" I grabbed the box, opened it, pulled out the journal. Ezra Hartwell documented everything. Names, dates, murders. It's all here. I thrust the journal at Marshal Cross. This time he took it, opened it, started reading. Webb's face went cold. "Marshal, I'm warning you. Don't let this man manipulate you." Cross kept reading. His face went pale. His hands started to shake. This can't be," he whispered. "It is," Kaya said. Her English was broken, but her voice was strong. "I see him kill. I see with own eyes." Webb took a step toward her. "You saw nothing. You're a squaw with a grudge." "Don't," I said quietly. "Call her that again." Webb turned to me. The pleasant mask was gone now. What was underneath was cold, calculating, reptilian. "Mr. Stone, you have no idea what you're interfering with. This territory needs order, needs development. I provide that. A few people die, that's the price of progress. 13 people, 13 obstacles, 13 people who couldn't see the bigger picture." He looked around at the crowd, raised his voice. "I've brought jobs to this town, built schools, funded churches. What has this drifter brought? Chaos, violence, and the word of a reservation Indian who probably can't even count to 10. The crowd murmured, uncertain. I could feel them wavering. Then a voice rang out from the back. "He brought the truth." An old woman pushed through the crowd, the Mexican woman from the auction, the one who'd warned me about the cabin. She walked right up to Webb, looked him in the eye. "My name is Rosa Ortiz," she said loudly. 3 years ago, Silas Webb wanted my husband's land. Good land. Water rights. My husband, he say no. 1 week later, he die. Fall from horse, they say. But my husband, he ride horses 40 years. Never fall." Webb's jaw tightened. "Accidents happen, Mrs. Ortiz. I'm sorry for your loss, but you kill him." Her voice cracked. "Everyone know. Nobody speak. Because we afraid. Afraid like Marshal Cross afraid." She turned to the crowd. "How many of you lose land to Webb? Lose family? Lose hope? We stay quiet because we think we alone. But we not alone. We all victims." For a moment, silence. Then a man stepped forward, older, weathered. "Webb took my daughter's ranch. Said her deed was fake. She killed herself 6 months later." Another voice. "He burned my crops when I wouldn't sell." Another. "He ran my cattle off a cliff. Called it rustlers." One by one, people stepped forward. A dozen of them, then more. Merchants, farmers, Mexican families, all with stories, all with losses. Webb watched this with a face like stone. Then he turned to Marshal Cross. "Are you going to let a mob dictate justice?" Marshal Cross stood there, journal in his hands, surrounded by his town, his people. I could see the war happening behind his eyes. Finally he looked up. "Mr. Webb, I'm placing you under arrest for the murder of Ezra Hartwell." And I'll be investigating these other claims." Webb laughed. Actually laughed. "You're arresting me? Marshal, I own the judge. I own the bank. I own the town council. By tomorrow morning, you won't have a badge. And these people?" He gestured dismissively at the crowd. "They'll be evicted, every last one of them." "Maybe," Marshal Cross said quietly, "but today, right now, you're under arrest." He reached for his gun. Webb was faster. His hand flashed to his jacket. For a moment I thought he had a gun, but what he pulled out was a piece of paper. He unfolded it, showed it to Marshal Cross. "That's a warrant," Webb said coldly, "signed by Judge Morrison, for the arrest of Caleb Stone, also known as Caleb Hartman, for theft and fraud in New Mexico Territory." My blood went cold. Webb smiled. "You see, Marshal, I do my research. Mr. Stone here, he's a wanted man. Forged a land deed himself. Tried to steal property from the Webb Land Company. There's a price on his head, $500. The crowd shifted, uncertain again. "That's a lie," I said. "You forged my deed. You stole my ranch." "Can you prove it?" Webb asked. "Do you have documentation, witnesses, or just your word?" I had nothing. The papers had all been seized. My lawyer had disappeared. It had been Webb's documents against mine, and Webb had won. Marshal Cross looked at me. "Is this true? Are you wanted in New Mexico?" Yes, but not for the reasons he says." Webb shrugged. "The law is the law, Marshal. I may have questions to answer, but so does Mr. Stone. I suggest we all go see Judge Morrison. Let him sort this out." It was a trap. Webb owned Judge Morrison. If we went to court, I'd be convicted. The journal would disappear. Kaya would be deported back to the reservation, and Webb would walk free. Before I could speak, Kaya stepped forward. She moved between me and Webb, all 6'2" of her. She looked down at him and spoke in careful English. "You hang me. You think I die. But this man, he cut rope. Save me. Now I save him." "The squaw speaks," Webb said mockingly. "How touching." Kaya's fist moved so fast I barely saw it. One moment Webb was standing there, smirking. The next, he was on the ground, blood pouring from his nose, his hat rolling in the dust. His men reached for their guns. Marshal Cross drew his. The crowd gasped and pressed back. For a moment, everything hung in balance. One wrong move, and this would turn into a massacre. Then Roy Finch, the young man who'd let us pass, he rode up, dismounted, walked through Webb's men like they weren't there. He stood next to Marshal Cross. "My brother Daniel," Roy said quietly. "Webb killed him 2 years ago. He tried to quit, said he wouldn't work for Webb no more. They found him in an alley, said he was drunk, fell and hit his head. But my brother didn't drink." He looked at the other 5 men, Webb's hired guns. "How many of you got blood on your hands because of him? How many of you can sleep at night?" One of the men shifted uncomfortably, then another. The oldest one, maybe 40, with a scar across his cheek, he slowly lowered his rifle. "I'm done," the scarred man said. "I ain't killing women and old people no more." He threw his rifle in the dirt, walked away. Another followed, then another, until only 2 of Webb's men remained. And they looked like they wanted to run. Webb got to his feet, blood streaming down his face, staining his expensive suit. The pleasant mask was completely gone now. What was left was pure rage. "You fools," he hissed. "All of you. I made this town. I brought civilization, order. And this is how you repay me?" Marshal Cross raised his gun. "Mr. Webb, you're under arrest. Don't make this worse." "Worse?" Webb started laughing, high, hysterical. "It can't get worse. You think this ends with me? There are 10 more like me, 20, 100. This territory is being tamed, and blood is the price. You can arrest me, but you can't stop what's coming." He lunged. Not at Marshal Cross, at Kaya. He was fast, pulled a knife from his boot, aimed for her throat. I moved without thinking, tackled him. We went down hard. His knife slashed my arm. Hot pain, blood. But I held on, pinned him. Marshal Cross was there in a second, gun to Webb's head. "Don't move." Webb went still, breathing hard, staring up at me with eyes full of hate. "You ruined everything," he whispered. For 12 cents and a squaw. You ruined everything. No, I said. You ruined yourself, 15 years ago, the moment you killed Ezra Hartwell. Marshal Cross pulled Webb to his feet, slapped iron cuffs on his wrists. Silas Webb, you're under arrest for murder, fraud, and attempted murder. You have the right to— I know my rights, Webb spat. Then he looked at me. This isn't over, Stone. Judge Morrison will have you hanged by sunset. Maybe, I said, but you'll hang first. As Marshal Cross led Webb away, the crowd erupted, some cheering, some crying. Rosa Ortiz crossed herself and whispered prayers in Spanish. Roy Finch approached me. Mr. Stone, I'm sorry, for working with him, for all of it. You did right at the end. That's what counts. He nodded. Looked like he wanted to say more. Then his father, Horace Finch, came running up the street. When he saw Roy standing with us, with Marshal Cross, tears started streaming down his face. Son, Horace whispered, you're safe. Roy and his father embraced. Two men who'd been trapped by Webb's power, finally free. Kaya touched my shoulder. You hurt. I looked down. My arm was bleeding pretty good where Webb's knife had caught me. I'll live. You always say that. You die someday. Not today, she smiled. That rare, transforming smile. Not today. Marshal Cross came back out of his office. I've got Webb locked up, but he's right about one thing. Judge Morrison won't convict him. He'll twist this somehow. And that warrant for your arrest, Stone, it's real. If I don't act on it, I'll be removed and replaced with someone who will. The hope that had been building in my chest started to crumble. So what do? We? Rosa Ortiz said firmly. She'd been standing nearby, listening. We fight. Not with guns, with law. Webb owns the law, I said. He owned local law, but not territorial law. She looked at Marshal Cross. There is territorial marshal in Tucson. Man named Samuel Grant. He answered to governor, not to local judges. Marshal Cross nodded slowly. Grant's honest. If we can get this evidence to him, he'll investigate. He has the power to override Judge Morrison. How far is Tucson? I asked. 3 days' ride? Webb's men, most of them just quit. And the ones left, they're not going to stop a lawful transfer of evidence. Kaya frowned. But Webb, he have friends, other men like him. They try stop us. Then we don't go alone, Roy Finch said. He looked around at the crowd. We send a delegation, 20 men, armed, legal, escorting evidence to the territorial marshal. Anyone tries to stop us, they're interfering with justice. Horace Finch stepped forward. I'll go. It's the least I can do. Others volunteered. The man who'd lost his daughter, the one whose crops were burned, merchants, farmers, even 2 of Webb's former men, the ones who'd thrown down their rifles. Within an hour we had a group, 23 men, 3 women, including Rosa Ortiz, and Kaya. You should rest, I told her. Your neck, my neck heal. My spirit need this. She looked toward the marshal's office where Webb was locked up. I need see him answer for what he do, I understood. This wasn't about revenge. It was about justice, about seeing the end of something that had been broken for too long. Marshal Cross organized the group. We'd leave at first light the next morning. 3 days to Tucson. 3 days to get the evidence to someone who could act on it. That left 1 day. 1 day to prepare. 1 day for Webb to potentially be broken out by his remaining allies. 1 day for Judge Morrison to issue orders that would stop us. We spent that day fortifying the marshal's office, boarding up windows, posting guards. Marshal Cross deputized 10 men, including me and Roy Finch. As the sun set, I found myself sitting on the steps of the marshal's office, cleaning my rifle. My arm was bandaged where Webb had cut me. It throbbed, but it wasn't deep. Kaya sat down beside me. She moved carefully. Her neck was still swollen. The rope burned angry and red, but her eyes were clear. You think about son, she said, not a question. How'd you know? You touch pocket. Where letter is, I see you do it many times. I pulled out the letter I'd written to Sam, the one I'd meant as a goodbye. I was going to mail this if I died, but now I think maybe I'll get to give it to him in person. You bring him here, to cabin? If we make it through this, if Webb goes to trial and gets convicted, if I'm cleared of those charges, then yes, I'll bring Sam here, start over, build the ranch I couldn't keep in New Mexico. Kaya was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I not go back to reservation. I looked at her. Your father loved me. But reservation, it is cage. Even loving cage is still cage. I want choose. Choose where I live, what I do, who I spend time with. She looked at me sideways. You need partner. For ranch? Someone who know horses. You offering to work for me? Not work for. Work with. Partners. 50-50. Like Marshall Cross say, if we survive, you get cabin, you get land. But land is nothing without horses, and I break horses better than anyone. I thought about it. A partnership, an Apache woman, and a white rancher. In 1887 Arizona Territory, that was almost unheard of. People would talk, I said. People always talk. I stopped caring long time ago. Your father might not approve. Then I make him understand. I am mountain daughter. I am not weak. I choose my path. I held out my hand. Partners. She took it. Her hand swallowed mine. We shook. Firm. Final. Besides, she added with a slight smile, someone need keep you alive. You make bad decisions. 12 cents for a cabin full of murder was pretty bad. Worst decision ever. She paused. But also, maybe best. That night I slept in the marshal's office. Not well. Every sound made me jerk awake. But when dawn came, we were all still alive. Webb was still locked up. And it was time to go. The delegation assembled in the street, 26 of us total. Marshal Cross would stay behind to guard Webb and keep order in redemption. Roy Finch would lead the group. As we mounted up, a rider came in from the north, Apache. He rode a paint horse and carried a lance with eagle feathers. Kaya stiffened. That is Swift Bear, my father's messenger. The rider approached, spoke to Kaya in rapid Apache. She responded, back and forth. Their voices rose and fell. Finally, Kaya turned to me. My father know I am here, know about Webb, know about cabin and journal. And? He says I shame family by leaving, by working with white men. But, she paused. He also says he is proud. Proud I stand for truth. Proud I survive. Is he coming? No, treaty still hold. But he sent this. She took something from Swift Bear, a necklace, turquoise and silver. This was my mother's. Father says wherever I go, I carry her spirit. She put it on. It looked small against her broad chest, but the way she touched it, gentle and reverent, made it clear what it meant. Swift Bear spoke again. Kaya translated. Father says if white men betray you, come home. Reservation door always open. But if white men keep word, if they give justice, then he say I am free to choose my path. Sounds like a good father, I said. Best father, hardest father, but best. Swift Bear wheeled his horse and rode north. We watched him go. Then Roy Finch called out, time to move. The delegation started forward, 26 riders, carrying Ezra Hartwell's journal, carrying the truth. As we rode out of redemption, I looked back once, at the marshal's office where Webb was locked up, at the courthouse where I'd bought a cabin for 12 cents, at the town that had been too afraid to act until one stubborn rancher and one giant Apache woman forced their hand. Rosa Ortiz had said we'd fight with law, not guns. But I had a feeling, before this was over, we'd need both. The trail to Tucson stretched out before us. 3 days, 70 miles, through territory where Webb might have allies, where Judge Morrison might send men to stop us. But we were 26 strong. We had the truth, and we had nothing left to lose. Kaya rode beside me. Her hand rested on the revolver at her hip. Her eyes scanned the horizon. You ready for this? I asked. I hang from rope yesterday. Today I ride to make man who hang me pay. Yes, I ready. We might not make it. Then we die trying. Better than die doing nothing. I thought about Sarah, about little Sam, About the ranch I'd lost and the cabin I'd bought. 12 cents. That's all it had cost to set this in motion. 12 cents and the decision to cut a rope. Sometimes the smallest choices lead to the biggest changes. We rode toward the sunrise, toward justice, toward whatever came next, and for the first time in 6 months I felt something I'd thought was dead. Hope. We made it 10 miles before they hit us. The attack came at midday, when the sun was high and merciless. We'd been following the stage road south toward Tucson, keeping a tight formation. Roy Finch rode point. I rode alongside Kaya near the middle, with the metal box containing Hartwell's journal strapped to my saddle. The land here was open, sparse mesquite, red dirt, not much cover, which is why we didn't see them until they were already shooting. The first bullet took down Horace Finch's horse. The animal screamed and went down hard. Horace rolled clear, scrambling for his rifle. Then the air was full of lead. "Ambush!" Roy shouted. "Take cover!" But there was no cover, just open prairie and a few scattered rocks. I counted them quickly. 8 riders, coming from the east, spread out in a line, professional, coordinated. Not Webb's usual ranch hands. These were hired guns. "Dismount," I yelled. "Use the horses for cover." It went against every instinct. Horses are innocent, but right now they were the only things between us and bullets. We swung down, pulled our mounts to the ground, created a rough circle of horseflesh. The attackers came closer, still firing. One of our men, a farmer named Collins, took a round in the shoulder, went down, cursing. Roy Finch had his rifle up. He fired again. One of the attackers jerked and fell from his saddle. "They're not trying to kill us," Kaya said. She'd drawn the old revolver, was aiming carefully. "They shoot at horses, at legs. They want us pinned." She was right. This wasn't a killing strike. This was a delaying action. "They're waiting for something," I said, "or someone." As if in answer, I heard hoofbeats from the west. Behind us, more riders. I turned and counted. 6. No, 7. We were surrounded. The shooting stopped, suddenly, eerily, just the wind and the sound of wounded horses struggling to breathe. Then a voice called out, familiar, cold. "Delegation from Redemption. Throw down your weapons. You're interfering with the transport of a prisoner." I knew that voice. Judge Morrison. A rider emerged from the western group, old man, maybe 70, but straight-backed. He wore a black suit and a wide-brimmed hat. A badge gleamed on his vest, not a judge's badge, a marshal's badge. "I am Judge Harrison Morrison," he called, "and by order of territorial law, I am assuming custody of the evidence you carry. The Journal of Ezra Hartwell is material to an ongoing investigation. It must be surrendered to proper authorities." "You're not proper authority," Roy shouted back. "You're in Webb's pocket. Slander young Mr. Finch. I am a duly appointed judge. You are an armed mob. The distinction should be clear." Rosa Ortiz stood up despite the danger. "You lie. You work for Webb. Everyone know." Mrs. Ortiz. "Your husband's death was investigated and ruled accidental. If you persist in these baseless accusations, I will have you arrested for defamation." This was it. The trap we'd feared. Morrison had the legal authority to seize the journal, and if we resisted, we'd be branded as criminals, outlaws. "What do we do?" Kaya whispered. I looked at the journal box, at Roy, at Rosa, at all these people who'd finally found courage to stand up. If we gave Morrison the journal, it would disappear. Webb would go free, and everything we'd done, everything Kaya had suffered, would be for nothing. But if we fought, we'd be outlaws, hunted, and we'd probably die right here in the dust. I thought of Sam, of the letter in my pocket, of the promise I'd made to build something for him. Then I thought of Ezra Hartwell, a man who'd died trying to expose the truth, a man who'd hidden evidence for 15 years, waiting for someone brave enough to use it. I stood up, slow, hands visible. "Judge Morrison," I called out, "before I hand over this journal, I got a question. Make it quick, Mr. Stone. Ezra Hartwell. You knew him, didn't you? 15 years ago when he was investigating land fraud. A pause. I knew him. A good man. Tragic what happened. He came to you, didn't he? Showed you his evidence? Asked you to help? Another pause. Longer. I don't recall any such meeting. That's funny, because there's an entry in his journal, dated October 12, 1872. Says he met with you, showed you proof of Webb's fraud, and you told him you'd look into it. I may have had such a conversation. And 2 days later, he was dead. The wind picked up. Dust devils swirled across the prairie. Morrison's voice went hard. Are you accusing me of something, Mr. Stone? I'm saying you knew. You've known for 15 years, and you did nothing, which makes you complicit, which means you're the last person who should have custody of this evidence. I am still a judge, and you are still obligated to— No, I cut him off. I'm not obligated to hand evidence of murder to a man who helped cover it up. This journal goes to Tucson, to Territorial Marshal Grant, a man who doesn't owe Webb anything. Morrison's face went red. You are in violation of a lawful order. I command you to surrender that journal. Come and take it. For a long moment, nobody moved. 15 of Morrison's men against 26 of us, but we were pinned down, low on ammunition, some already wounded. Then Roy Finch stood up next to me. Then Rosa Ortiz. Then Horace, limping on his bad leg. One by one, every person in our delegation stood. You want the journal, Roy said loudly. You'll have to kill all of us. And you do that, Judge, there'll be witnesses, people who'll talk. You can't silence everyone. Morrison stared at us. I could see the calculation in his eyes. Could he get away with a massacre? Would Webb's protection extend that far? Then the sound, faint at first, from the north, rising, building. A sound I'd only heard in stories, Apache war cries. My blood went ice. A line of riders appeared on the northern ridge. 20, no, 30, maybe more. They sat on their horses, silhouetted against the sky, lances, bows, rifles. At the center, on a white horse, was a man with long silver hair, Chief White Cloud. Kaya gasped. Father. The Apache riders didn't charge, didn't attack. They just sat there, watching. A wall of force between us and Morrison's men. White Cloud rode forward, alone. He stopped halfway between the two groups. When he spoke, his voice carried like thunder. Judge Morrison, you leave now, or my warriors kill everyone. Treaty be damned. Morrison's horse shifted nervously. Chief White Cloud, this doesn't concern you. This is a white man's business. My daughter there, White Cloud pointed at Kaya. Man, hang her. Try kill her. Now you try stop her from justice. This concern me. Your daughter left the reservation illegally. My daughter witnessed murder. She have right to speak. You try silence her. You silence all Apache. You want war, Judge? Because that what you get. The Apache warriors raised their weapons. Not threatening yet. Just ready. Morrison looked at his men. Looked at us. Looked at the Apache. I could see the moment he realized he'd lost. This isn't over, he said coldly. When you reach Tucson, I'll have federal marshals waiting. You'll all be arrested. Maybe, I said, but at least we'll get there. Morrison wheeled his horse, rode back to his men. They conferred briefly. Then, as a group, they turned and rode west, back toward Redemption. We watched them disappear into the heat shimmer. When they were gone, White Cloud dismounted, walked toward us. His warriors stayed on the ridge. Kaya stepped forward. Father and daughter faced each other. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then White Cloud reached out, touched the rope burn on Kaya's neck. His face, weathered and hard, crumpled. And this old chief, this leader of warriors, pulled his daughter into his arms and wept. Kaya held him. She was taller than him, broader. But in that moment, she was just a daughter who'd come home. They spoke in Apache, quiet, intense. I couldn't understand the words, but I understood the meaning. Forgiveness, understanding, love. Finally, White Cloud turned to me. His eyes, dark and piercing, studied my face. You are Caleb Stone, the man who bought Cursed Cabin. Yes, sir. You cut rope, saved my daughter. Anyone would have done the same. No. White Cloud shook his head. Most men, they see Apache woman, they leave her die, or worse. You cut rope. You fight for her. You make her partner. He looked at Kaya. She'd tell me, equal partnership. 50-50. That's right. White Cloud was silent for a long moment. Then he held out his hand. First white man, treat my daughter like equal. You have my respect, Stone, my trust. I shook his hand. His grip was iron. Thank you for coming, I said, for breaking the treaty to help us. Treaty already broken. When Webb hang my daughter, he break it. I was too afraid to act, too worried about tribe. But Kaya, she show me. Sometimes courage means risking everything, even peace. Roy Finch approached. Chief White Cloud were heading to Tucson to turn over evidence to the territorial marshal. If your warriors could escort us, we'd... No. White Cloud cut him off. I help today because daughter in danger, but if I ride to Tucson, break treaty openly, government send soldiers, hurt whole tribe. You understand? Roy nodded. We understand. Thank you for what you've done. White Cloud turned back to Kaya, spoke in Apache. She answered, back and forth. Then he removed something from around his neck, a medicine bag, old leather, decorated with beads. This was your mother's, he said in English. She wear it when she alive. After she die, I keep it. Now I give to you. Wherever you go, you carry her spirit and mine. Kaya took it, held it against her chest. Tears streamed down her face. White Cloud mounted his horse, looked at me one more time. You take care of my daughter. She's strong, but she need family. You be family now. You understand? I understand. He rode back to his warriors. As one, they turned and disappeared over the ridge, like ghosts, like they'd never been there. But they had been, and they'd saved us. We buried Collins, the farmer who'd died in the ambush, said words over him. Then we mounted up and rode south. We made it to Tucson 2 days later. The city was bigger than Redemption, real buildings, telegraph lines, a proper courthouse, and most importantly, the office of Territorial Marshal Samuel Grant. Grant was a big man, maybe 50, graying beard, eyes that missed nothing. When we walked in, all 26 of us, he looked up from his desk with an expression of mild alarm. If this is a lynch mob, you're in the wrong office, he said dryly. We're not a mob, Roy Finch said. We're citizens, with evidence of murder and fraud. We spent 3 hours in that office, showed Grant the journal, the forged deeds. Kaya testified about Marcus Yates, how she witnessed the murder. Rosa Ortiz testified about her husband. Others came forward, one by one, each with their story. Grant listened, took notes, asked questions. When we finished, he sat back in his chair and let out a long breath. This is the biggest case of land fraud I've ever seen. If even half of what you're saying is true, we're talking about dozens of victims, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Judge Morrison is implicated? He knew, I said. He's been protecting Webb for 15 years. That's a serious charge. It's the truth. Grant looked at the journal, at the pages and pages of evidence. Then he looked at me. Mr. Stone, you understand you're wanted in New Mexico? There's a warrant for your arrest. I know, but that warrant was issued based on Webb's false testimony. I didn't forge my deed, he did. Can you prove it? Not anymore. All my documents were seized by Webb's people. But if you investigate, if you look at the pattern of his frauds, you'll see mine fits. Grant was quiet for a long time, then he stood. All right. Here's what's going to happen. I'm opening a full investigation into Silas Webb, Judge Morrison, and the Webb Land Company. I'm sending deputies to Redemption to take custody of Webb, and I'm suspending that warrant for your arrest pending investigation. Relief flooded through me. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is going to take months, maybe longer. Webb has powerful friends. They'll fight back. And you, Mr. Stone, you're going to be the star witness, which makes you a target. I'm already a target. Fair point. Grant looked at Kaya. Miss, your testimony about Marcus Yates's murder is crucial, but you need to understand, Testifying in a white man's court, it's going to be difficult. There will be people who won't believe you, who will try to discredit you. Kaya straightened to her full height. I tell truth. Truth not care what people believe. Grant smiled slightly. I like you. All right, you all can go, but stay in the territory. I'll need to call you back when we go to trial. We filed out of his office, into the Tucson street. The sun was setting. Golden light painted everything. Roy Finch pumped his fist. We did it! We actually did it! Rosa Ortiz crossed herself. Gracias a Dios. Justice comes at last. People were celebrating, shaking hands, some crying. 3 years? 5 years. Some had been waiting longer for justice. I stood apart, watching, feeling the weight of everything we'd done. Kaya approached. You not celebrate? This isn't over. Grant said it himself. Months of trial, Webb's friends fighting back, and I'm still wanted. But you alive, I alive. We have chance. A chance isn't a certainty. She studied my face. Then she said, You still think about Sam. Wonder if you see him again. Every day. Then we make sure you do. We go back to cabin. We work. We build ranch. And when trial over, when Webb hang, you bring son home, yes? You make it sound simple. Not simple, but possible. That enough? She was right. Possible was enough. We stayed in Tucson for 2 more days, giving formal statements, signing documents. Then we rode back north, back to redemption. The town was different when we returned, quieter, watchful. Word had spread that Marshal Grant was investigating, that Webb was going to trial. Webb himself was still locked up in the marshal's office. Marshal Cross had held him despite threats from Morrison, despite pressure from the town council. When I went to see Cross, he looked exhausted. It's been hell, he admitted. Morrison sent lawyers. Council tried to remove me, but I held firm. Webb stays locked up until Grant's deputies arrive. When will that be? Tomorrow. They're coming with a territorial warrant. He'll be transported to Tucson for trial. I looked toward the cell where Webb was held. Can I talk to him? Cross hesitated. Why? Need to say something. 5 minutes, and I'll be right outside. The cell was small, dark. Webb sat on a cot, his expensive suit rumpled and stained. When he saw me, he smiled. It was a terrible smile. Mr. Stone, come to gloat? No, came to understand. Understand what? Why you do it. The fraud, the murder, all of it. Webb stood, walked to the bars. You really want to know? Yes. Because this territory is chaos. Apache raids, bandits, squatters. Someone needed to bring order, to make it profitable. To turn wilderness into civilization. That was me. I created jobs, built towns, made this place livable. By stealing from people, by killing them, by doing what was necessary. His voice rose. You think civilization is built on kindness, on fairness? It's built on blood and iron, always has been. I was just willing to do what others weren't. You were willing to become a monster. I was willing to be practical. He leaned closer. And you know what the funny thing is? In 20 years, no one will remember the people I killed. They'll remember the schools I built, the churches, the roads. That's my legacy, not some rancher who bought a cabin for 12 cents. Maybe, but you'll hang, and I'll live, and build something honest, something clean. That's the difference between us. Webb laughed. You think you've won? Stone, I have friends, powerful friends. This trial will drag on for years. Evidence will disappear. Witnesses will recant. And even if I hang, there will be 10 more like me. The territory demands it. Then we'll stop them too. You can't stop progress. No, but I can stop you, and that's enough. I turned to leave. Webb called after me. Stone, your son, Sam, he's in Philadelphia, right? With his grandparents? I froze. Don't worry, I'm just curious. After all, children need fathers. Be a shame if something happened to you before you could bring him home. I turned back, slowly. You threatening my son? I'm observing that the world is dangerous. Accidents happen, especially to people who testify against powerful men. I walked back to the bars, looked him in the eye. You touch my son, you even think about him, and I will kill you. I don't care about trials, don't care about justice. I will end you." Webb's smile faded. What he saw in my face, it scared him. "Good. Now who's the monster?" he whispered. "The difference is, I'm a monster who protects his family. You're a monster who destroys them. Remember that." I left. My hands were shaking. Marshall Cross was outside. "Everything all right?" "Fine. Just fine." But it wasn't fine. Webb's threat hung over me like a storm cloud. He was right. Even locked up he had reach, had people. I needed to get Sam back, soon, before Webb's allies could act. That night I wrote another letter to Sam's grandparents, told them I'd cleared my name, that I had a place, that I was coming to get Sam in the spring. I mailed it the next morning. Marshal Grant's deputies arrived that afternoon. They took custody of Webb, shackled him, loaded him into a prison wagon. As they rode out of Redemption, the whole town came out to watch, silent, witnessing. This man who'd controlled them for so long finally being brought to justice. Webb looked at them through the wagon bars, and he laughed, that high, hysterical laugh. "You think this changes anything?" he shouted. "I made this town. I made all of you. Without me, you're nothing." No one answered. They just watched him go. When the wagon disappeared from sight, Rosa Ortiz started singing. A Mexican hymn about deliverance, about freedom. Others joined in, Apache songs, Protestant hymns, all blending together, a sound of relief, of hope. Kaya and I stood apart, watching. "You think he right?" she asked. "That there are more like him? Probably. But that's tomorrow's fight. Today we won." "What you do now?" "Now I go back to that 12-cent cabin, and I start building." "We start building," I smiled. "We start building." Winter came to Arizona Territory. It wasn't like back east. No snow, just cold nights and crisp mornings. The kind of weather that made you grateful for a solid roof and a good fire. Kaya and I spent those months rebuilding Crow's Gate. The cabin first. We replaced rotten boards, resealed the chinking, fixed the windows. It was hard work. My hands bled, my back ached, but every nail I drove, every board I fitted, it felt like I was building more than a house. I was building a future. Kaya worked harder than any man I'd ever known. She could lift logs I couldn't budge, could work from sunup to sundown without complaining. But she was also patient, careful. She insisted we do things right. "You build once," she said, "build good or build again." We rebuilt the barn, had to start from scratch. But by December we had a solid structure, room for 20 horses, hay storage, a small bunk room. Then the horses came. White Cloud sent them. 10 Mustangs, wild, untamed, a gift from father to daughter. Kaya broke them one by one. I'd never seen anything like it. She didn't break their spirit. She gentled it, showed them she was strong enough to lead, patient enough to teach. By January, we had 10 working horses, strong, reliable, ready to sell, word spread. Ranchers came from as far as 50 miles to see Kaya's horses, to see the giant Apache woman who could make a wild Mustang soft as butter. We sold 6 horses that first month, got good prices, fair prices. With the money I bought cattle, just 10 head, enough to start, enough to show Sam we had a working ranch. Roy Finch helped. He'd become a regular visitor, working off his guilt, I think, but also becoming a friend. He was good with wood, built us a porch, a rain barrel system. Small things that made life easier. Rosa Ortiz came too, brought food, taught Kaya English. The two of them would sit by the fire, Rosa talking slowly, Kaya repeating words. Learning. By February, Kaya could hold a full conversation. Her accent was thick, her grammar creative, but she could make herself understood. "You good teacher," Kaya told Rosa one evening. "You good student. And you," Rosa looked at me, "you different. Most white men, they not let Apache woman be equal. But you do. Why?" "Because she's earned it, and because I got no right to own anyone's life but my own." Rosa nodded approvingly. "Your wife, she teach you good." "She tried. Took me a while to learn." The trial began in March. Marshal Grant sent word. We needed to come to Tucson. Testify. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Webb had hired expensive lawyers from back east. They attacked everything, questioned the journal's authenticity, tried to discredit Kaya's testimony. Is it true you left the reservation without permission? Webb's lawyer asked her. Yes. And is it true you were promised to marry but your intended died? Yes. And isn't it true that you harbor resentment toward white men, that you might lie to punish someone you see as an enemy? Kaya stood tall in the witness box. I not lie. I see murder. I tell truth. If you not believe Apache woman, that your problem, not mine. The courtroom murmured, but I saw jury members nodding. They believed her. When it was my turn, Webb's lawyer tried to paint me as a vengeful failure. Mr. Stone, you lost your ranch to my client's company, correct? Yes. And you lost your wife shortly after, correct? Yes. And you sent your son away, correct? To protect him, yes? So you have every reason to want revenge on Mr. Webb, to fabricate evidence, to lie. I looked at the jury. I'm not lying. I bought a cabin for 12 cents, found a woman hanging there, found a journal documenting 15 years of murder. That's not revenge, that's truth. And if you can't see the difference, then God help you. The trial turned on the journal. Webb's lawyers claimed it was fake, but Marshal Grant brought in an expert, a handwriting analyst from San Francisco. He testified that the journal was genuine, that the handwriting matched other documents written by Ezra Hartwell. More witnesses came forward, people who'd been afraid to speak before, ranch hands who'd seen Webb commit crimes, clerks who'd processed fraudulent deeds. Judge Morrison tried to testify on Webb's behalf, but Roy Finch's lawyer, a young man named Daniel Freeman, who was doing this pro bono, destroyed him on cross-examination. Judge Morrison, you've known about these crimes for 15 years. Why didn't you act? I had no concrete evidence. Ezra Hartwell showed you his journal, showed you evidence. You testified earlier that you didn't recall that meeting, but we have the journal entry. It names you, names the date. Were you lying then, or are you lying now? Morrison went pale, stammered. The jury saw it. On the final day, the jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they came back, the foreman stood. On the count of murder in the first degree for Ezra Hartwell, we find the defendant, Silas Webb, guilty. The courtroom erupted, cheering, crying. Rosa Ortiz collapsed in her seat, weeping. The foreman continued. On the count of murder for Marcus Yates, guilty. On the count of fraud, guilty. On all counts, guilty. Webb stood stone-faced as the verdict was read. When the judge asked if he had anything to say before sentencing, he remained silent. Silas Webb, the judge said, you are hereby sentenced to death by hanging, sentenced to be carried out in 30 days. May God have mercy on your soul. They led Webb out in chains. As they led him past, Webb stopped, turned, looked me in the eye. The courtroom went silent. 12 cents, he said, not whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear. All this because of 12 cents. I held a stare. No, all this because you killed 13 people and thought you'd get away with it. He opened his mouth, closed it. Nothing left to say. The deputies pulled him forward. He didn't resist, didn't look back, gone. Judge Morrison was arrested that same day, charged as an accessory. His trial would come later. Marshal Grant approached me as we left the courthouse. Mr. Stone, the warrant for your arrest has been dismissed. You're a free man, and there's more. The territorial government has ruled that all land deeds processed by the Webb Land Company will be reviewed. If fraud is found, the land reverts to original owners. My ranch in New Mexico should be returned to you within 3 months. Full title, clear deed. I stood there stunned. I get it back? You get it back. Kaya grabbed my arm. You hear that? You get ranch. You can bring Sam home. But I looked at her, at this woman who'd become my partner, my friend, who'd worked alongside me for months building something new. I've got a ranch, I said slowly. Question is, Which one do I want? That night we stayed in a Tucson hotel, Kaya's first time in a hotel. She stared at everything. The wallpaper, the gas lamps, the soft bed. "This strange," she said. "Sleep in box, inside big box." I laughed. "Wait till you see a real city. Tucson's small compared to places back east." We sat by the window, looking out at the street below, people walking, living normal lives. "What you do now?" Kaya asked. "You have 2 ranches. New Mexico ranch bigger, yes? More land?" "Much bigger, 200 acres. Good water, better grass than Arizona." "So you go back there?" I was quiet for a long time. Then I said, "That ranch, it holds memories. Sarah, the life we had. I don't know if I can go back. Don't know if I want to." "What about Sam? He know that place. His mother buried there." "She's not buried there. She's in a pauper's grave in some boarding house cemetery. I couldn't afford better." Kaya was silent. Then she said, "You blame yourself for her death." "I do. But you not kill her. Sickness kill her. Webb kill her by taking your money, your home, not you. I should have protected her. You did, you do. By fighting now, by bringing justice, she would be proud." I looked at this woman, this mountain of a person with a heart bigger than her frame. "What about you?" I asked. "If I go back to New Mexico, what happens to our partnership?" "I come with you. We are partners, equal, remember? But the cabin, the land we built, is land, just land. Partnership is more, is trust, is work together. That not change if we move." I thought about it. The New Mexico ranch was bigger, better, more valuable. But the cabin at Crow's Gate, that was something I'd built with my own hands, with Kaya's hands. It wasn't given. It was earned. "I want to show you something," I said. I pulled out the deed to the Crow's Gate cabin, the one I'd received for 12 cents. I took out a pen, wrote on the deed, then showed it to Kaya. Where it had said Caleb Stone owner, I'd changed it. Now it read, Caleb Stone and Kaya Whitehawk equal owners. "I'm making it official," I said. 50-50, legal and binding. Whatever I decide about New Mexico, you own half of Crow's Gate. That's yours, free and clear." Kaya stared at the deed. Her hands trembled as she took it. You give me land? My land? Our land. Partners." She looked up. Tears streamed down her face. I never have owned land. Always belonged to tribe, to father, to reservation. But this is mine, ours." She folded the deed carefully, held it against her chest. Thank you, Caleb Stone. You give me more than land. You give me choice, give me freedom." We sat in silence. 2 broken people who'd found something whole in each other. The next morning, I made my decision. I sent a telegram to Sam's grandparents, told them I was coming, told them to get Sam ready. I'd be there in 2 weeks. Then I sent a telegram to the land office in New Mexico, told them to sell my ranch, all of it. Use the money to buy Sarah a proper headstone. The rest could be held in trust for Sam. I was staying in Arizona, at Crow's Gate, with Kaya, building something new. Roy Finch drove us back to Redemption in his wagon. The 3-day journey felt different now, lighter. The weight I'd been carrying for 6 months was finally lifting. When we arrived back at the cabin, White Cloud was waiting. He stood at the gate where his daughter had once hung. But now there was no rope, just a wooden sign we'd put up. Stone and White Hawk Ranch, established 1887. White Cloud read the sign, smiled. "White Hawk, you use mother's name." "Father's name," Kaya corrected. "White Cloud, White Hawk, same meaning. I honor you both." White Cloud dismounted, embraced his daughter. Then he turned to me. "You make good choice. Keep cabin, keep partnership. This place, it has strong medicine now. Bad spirits gone, good spirits grow." "Thank you, sir, for everything. For coming when we needed you. For the horses. For trusting me with your daughter." "I not trust you. I trust her. She choose you. That enough." He paused. When you bring your son, bring him to reservation. Meet his new family. Apache family. I will. White Cloud rode away. But before he left, he planted something, a small tree, cottonwood, right at the gate. Trees grow slow, he said, but strong, like family, like trust. You care for this tree, it will be here when your grandchildren come. Over the next 2 weeks, we prepared for Sam's arrival. I built a separate room onto the cabin, Sam's room. Kaya helped me make a bed. Rosa Ortiz sewed curtains. Roy Finch carved a horse from wood as a gift. The whole town pitched in. It was like they were all invested in this, in seeing a family reunited, in seeing something good come from all the pain. The day before I left for Philadelphia, Kaya and I rode up to a hill overlooking the ranch. We could see everything. The cabin, the barn, the corral with horses, the small herd of cattle, the land stretching out to the mountains. You nervous? Kaya asked. About seeing Sam? Terrified. It's been 6 months. He's going to think I abandoned him. Then you tell him truth. Tell him you were building home. Safe home. Good home. What if he doesn't want to come back? What if he likes Philadelphia, likes his grandparents better than me? Kaya snorted. He 8 years old. He want his father. Trust this. I hoped she was right. The stagecoach ride east took 2 weeks. Long, uncomfortable, but necessary. When I arrived in Philadelphia, I barely recognized the city. So many people, buildings so tall, noise, chaos, nothing like the wide-open spaces I'd grown used to. Sam's grandparents lived in a narrow brick house in a respectable neighborhood. I stood outside for 5 minutes, building courage. Then I knocked. Sam's grandmother opened the door. Sarah's mother. She'd aged since I'd seen her last, but her eyes were kind. "Caleb," she said softly, "we got your telegram. Sam's been waiting by the window all day. How is he? See for yourself." She stepped aside. And there, at the top of the stairs, was my boy. He'd grown. His hair was longer. He wore clothes I'd never seen, proper city clothes. But his eyes were the same. "Pa?" His voice cracked. "Hey, Sam." He flew down the stairs, crashed into me. I caught him, held him. This little person who was my whole world. "Pa, you came back. You came back." "I promised, didn't I?" He pulled back, looked at me. "You look different. Bigger. Happier. I've been working, building something. For us. Are we going home, to our ranch?" "We're going home, but not to that ranch. To a new one. In Arizona." Over dinner, I told them everything. About the cabin, the hanging, the journal, the trial, Webb's execution, the partnership with Kaya, building the ranch. Sam listened with wide eyes. "You're partners with an Apache woman? A real Apache?" "A real Apache. She's extraordinary, Sam. Saved my life more than once, and she's excited to meet you." Does she live with us?" "She's got her own room in the barn. But yes, she's part of our family now, if that's okay with you." Sam thought about it. "Mama used to say we should be kind to everyone. Treat people like family even if they're not blood. This is like that, right?" "Exactly like that." Sarah's parents were quiet through most of this. Finally, her father spoke. "Caleb, you've clearly built something good out there, and we're happy for you. But Sam, he's settled here. He's in school, has friends. Are you sure it's best to uproot him again?" I looked at Sam. "That's for Sam to decide. Sam, do you want to stay here, have a normal life, schools and friends and no dangers? Or do you want to come to Arizona, help me build a ranch? It'll be hard work, dangerous sometimes, but it'll be ours." Sam didn't hesitate. "I want to go with you, Pa. I want to go home." We left 3 days later, said goodbye to his grandparents, promised to write, promised to visit. On the stagecoach west, Sam peppered me with questions about Arizona, about the cabin, about Kaya. "Is she really as tall as you say?" "Taller than me, 6'2". "Wow, can she really break wild horses?" "Better than anyone I've ever seen." Do you like her?" I looked at my son. He was asking something deeper. "I respect her, trust her. She's a good partner and a good friend. But you don't love her? Not like you loved Mama?" "No, not like that. Your mama, she was special, unique. No one could replace her. Sam nodded, satisfied. Good. I don't want to replace Mama either. We're not replacing her. We're honoring her by building the kind of life she'd want for us. When we finally crossed into Arizona territory, Sam pressed his face against the stagecoach window. It's so empty. That's the best part. Room to breathe. Room to grow. The stage let us off in redemption. Roy Finch was waiting with his wagon. "This is Sam," Roy said. "Pleased to meet you, young man. Your pa's told us a lot about you. He told me about you, too. You're the one who helped fight Webb." "We all fought Webb. Your pa most of all." We loaded into the wagon, rode out to Crow's Gate. Sam talked the whole way. About Philadelphia, about his grandparents, about missing his mother. Then, as we crested the last hill, he went quiet. Below us, the ranch spread out, the cabin with smoke curling from the chimney, the barn, the horses in the corral, the cottonwood tree at the gate, just starting to leaf out, and standing on the porch, waiting, was Kaya. "Pa," Sam whispered, "she's huge." "Yep. Is she nice?" "You'll see." Roy pulled the wagon up to the cabin. Kaya walked down from the porch. She moved carefully, non-threatening. When she reached us, she knelt down, getting to Sam's eye level. "Hello, Sam," she said slowly. "I am Kaya. Your father tell me much about you." Sam stared at her. Then, in a small voice, "You saved my pa. Your pa saved me first. We save each other. That what family do. Are you going to be like my new mom?" Kaya's eyes widened. She looked at me. I shook my head slightly. She understood. "No," she said gently. "I not replace your mother. No one can. But I can be friend, be teacher, be someone who care about you, if you let me." Sam thought about this. Then he held out his hand. "Okay, deal." Kaya shook his hand, her massive palm swallowing his small one. "Deal." That night we had a celebration. Rosa Ortiz brought food. Roy Finch brought music. He played fiddle while others danced. Sam ran around with the other children who'd come, playing, laughing, being a kid again. I stood on the porch with Kaya, watching. "He good boy," she said. "He is. Takes after his mother. He have his father too. Your strength. You're stubborn." Stubbornness saved us. Yes, it did. We watched the party, the firelight, the music, the community that had formed around this 12-cent cabin. "You happy?" Kaya asked. I thought about it, about Sarah, about the ranch I'd lost, about the 6 months of hell I'd been through, about Webb hanging, about justice. "Yeah," I said, "I think I am." "Good. Because tomorrow we work. Ranch not build itself." I laughed. "Tomorrow we work." The party went late. When everyone finally left, Sam was asleep on his feet. I carried him to his new room, tucked him in. "Pa?" he murmured. "Is this really home now?" "This is really home." "Good. I like it. It feels right." "Get some sleep, son." "Pa, thank you. For coming back for me. For not forgetting." "Forgetting you? Sam, you're the reason I fought, the reason I'm still standing." He smiled, eyes already closing. "Love you, Pa." "Love you too, Sam." I walked back out to the main room. Kaya was banking the fire for the night. "Long day," she said. "Long 6 months. But good 6 months. We survive. We win. We build." "We did." She stood, stretched. "I go to barn now. Sleep." "Kaya." She turned. "Thank you. For everything. For being a partner. A friend. For helping me become someone Sam can be proud of. You were always someone to be proud of. You just need remember." She paused at the door. "Caleb Stone, man who buy cabin for 12 cents. Man who cut rope. Man who fight for justice. Man who build home. That man worth more than 12 cents. Worth more than gold." She went out. I heard her footsteps crossing to the barn. I sat by the fire, alone, but not lonely. I thought about the auctioneer's words 6 months ago. "This cabin eats souls, But he was wrong. This cabin didn't eat souls. It saved them. Mine, Kaya's, Sam's, maybe even the whole town's. I pulled out the deed, the one that now read Caleb Stone and Kaya Whitehawk equal owners. 12 cents. That's what I'd paid. But what I'd gotten? Freedom, justice, family, partnership, home, 12 cents and the courage to cut a rope. That's all it took to change everything. Outside, wind moved through the cottonwood tree, the one White Cloud had planted, the one that would grow for generations. Inside, my son slept safe, my partner rested. My home stood solid, and tomorrow we'd work, build, grow, together. The way it should be, the way Sarah would have wanted, a 12-cent cabin. That's what started this. But what it bought? Justice, family, a second chance. When I closed my eyes now, I didn't see Sarah dying, didn't see Webb's face, didn't see failure. I saw Sam, safe in his bed. I saw Kaya, partner, friend. I saw tomorrow. Work to be done, horses to break, cattle to tend, a ranch to build. Simple things, honest things. That was worth more than all the land in Arizona. The end.